You're watching Earth, a culture fest promoted by Z. Once again, it is now time to divulge into the topic of storytelling. During these times when physical connections are limited, storytelling has emerged once again as a joyful art. The next conversation is about storytelling and is very well titled as The Joy of Storytelling in a Difficult World. We have with us Ms. Sudha Murty. She is the chairperson of the Infosys Foundation, a prolific writer in English and Kannada. Her books have been translated into all major Indian languages and have sold over 30 lakh copies around the country. She has also received 9 honorary doctorates. Some of her awards include the R.K. Narayan Award for Literature, the Padma Shri in 2006, the Atmabhi Award from the Government of Karnataka for Excellence in Kannada Literature in 2011, the Lifetime Achievement Award by Crossword Book Awards in 2018, and more recently, the Lal Bahadur Shastri National Award for Excellence in 2020. She lives by the belief that generosity of a few is hope for millions. In conversation with her, we have Ms. Vasanthi Hariprakash. She's an award-winning radio anchor and TV journalist, columnist, and a public speaker. She's the founder of Pickle Jar, an audio-video text company to tell stories of India without bias and hate. Enjoy this conversation coming up for you.
Namaskara. As we say in these parts of South India and Karnataka, everybody who's joining us, please join me in greeting someone who you're seeing on screen right next to me, someone who's greatly admired as a person who gives, but also as someone who writes and writes from her heart. Sudha Murty avarige namaskara.
Namaskara.
Murty ma'am, you are someone who believes that a story a day keeps troubles away. So your life itself is a story that is followed by many, many Indians and across the globe. But what is the point of discussion, the fulcrum here, is you as a storyteller and the fact that an entire generation has grown up on your stories. I am going to ask you, what is the first story you recall hearing from whoever in your house while you were growing up?
Namaste to everyone. Good evening. I was born and grew up in a village. There was no electricity in those days in my village. And our activities are sunrise to sunset. There was no entertainment for children other than reading. And that is true, we have to finish by 7:30, whatever reading, because even 6:30 for that matter. So, reading was our source of inspiration. And we were 13 cousins in one house. So, elders will tell stories to youngsters. Like Chandamama was most thought out magazine in those days. So, the initial story is what I have heard is from the elders at home, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Bhagavata. But non-connected to that was like Betala stories. There is 21 stories or 24 stories of Betala Katha. And I was quite fascinated because I realized when you listen to stories, when you are young, and your imagination grows very well, because it is not like a TV where you can see a person, like, when you think of Ram, you can see an actor. Or when you can think of Krishna, you can see some actor. So your imagination has a ceiling in that case. Whereas a place like Shigaon, where I was born and brought up, our imagination was like, what the shloka says, I could imagine that. Like, Vishnu is described, Neelamegha Shama, Shantakara, So every part of Vishnu's body was described. So I could imagine many things. So storytelling actually helped me to expand my imagination describe the situation and make it very interesting. If there was a king and the queen and they lived happily and died, there's nothing in that. Something should happen. Listeners should wait for that, like Arabian Nights. I always like Arabian Nights. That don't only tell half the story. So I always like that kind of there should be a mixture of not too much description, apt description, and a kind of a secret should be there, and which normally children expect something, but it should be different. This I loved in my childhood, and I continue to do the same in my book or my books.
Yes. In fact, 40 books, if I'm, I think if you're still not stopped counting. I remember the first conversation that I had with you was when I was back on radio. That was around 2004 and 5. And so 16, 17 years later, you're still writing books. So which means there is an unending reservoir of thoughts and characters and situations. मतलब कहानी जो है वो खत्म ही नहीं होता, you see. And that continued even during the pandemic. You had during Children's Day a book that you gave and gifted children to read. How was your own day in a pandemic?
See, in pandemic, because of our age, and Mr. Murty is 74, and I'm 70, we can't go out. And the second thing is, foundation work should go on, because our real work is when everybody is distressed. That time only foundation should work, not in happy days. You know, we don't have much work in happy days. So we have built a hospital. I was busy with that, buying the ventilators, equipment, this, that. So that it is to take 7 to 10 hours a day. Minimum I worked on my foundation work from home. But remaining time, I thought if there are children at home, they will really get bored because there is no school, in the online school, and friends are not there. So I thought, why can't I entertain children with a storybook during COVID time? So I wrote grandparents' backs of stories. The characters are imaginary, but the situation, the setup is my own setup 70, 60 years back. In a village, there is a big house, their grandparents are there, and cousins all will join. And grandmother says, now this is a pandemic time, I will do mask stitching, etc. You should help, and there are no servants. You should help me cooking and cleaning. And in return, I will tell one story a day. So I made up this, some 25, 27 stories, or maybe I don't know how many, I won't remember now. Stories which are very useful, like sharing is caring. You should be compassionate. Suppose you go on giving sermon like this, no child will listen. But if you convert that into a story, making it as if it has just happened yesterday, and relate to them, then they will be very enthusiastic. So I wrote 2 books. One is grandparents' backs of stories, and other one is my own dog Gopi, and through his eyes, how he sees everybody. Gopi finding love. The second book. 2 books I wrote.
See, for those who are watching us, and since it is all virtual, people don't even need to be in a room that you and I would have otherwise been. And so, you know, the Arth Festival is reaching out to people of the country and even beyond. So I want to tell everyone that Sudha ji, was a recipient of the R.K. Narayan Award for Literature. And of course, she's a Padma Shri that she was given in 2006, that she was conferred upon. And she's published, of course, books that, you know, where the topics can range from something which seems very normal to those of us Indians, and then touches upon charity, hospitality, self-realization. And also how I taught my grandmother to read is one of the most celebrated works. But Ma'am Sudha, I remember reading, and it must have happened to you, an incident in Shigao, where you said that your grandmother always had a tradition of keeping some rice,
red rice.
Yeah, I clearly remember.
Yes.
So that is something, for example, in a day and age when something became so scarce. We saw so thousands and thousands of migrants walk back to their homes. So this need for compassion that we need to have and we need to build in our children, that is something they saw for themselves. So something that you wrote many, many years back is still relevant and will be. These are human values. But I want you to tell that story in your own words.
Okay. Now let me put it in record. I'm writing since 40 years, I think. Almost 42 years. But I've written 35 books. But I have 220 titles because of the translation. Second thing.
Yes, widely translated.
All books have been translated,
yes,
including some of them are in Italian language. Okay. My grandmother never went to school, and we are in a village. So every day we used to have 2 storage for rice grain. We call in Kannada kanaja. And we had rice grain we used to store. We had paddy fields. The first quality is on the front door, and the second quality is at the back door. So grandmother will cook white rice for everyone, the first quality in the afternoon. Night, she will cook the second quality, which was known as the brown rice or red rice. Red rice, okay. And in a village, there used to be so many, the small village, and people used to come like, every Tuesday and Friday, Yellamma Jogati, one who used to go to Yellamma temple will come with Yellamma on her head. And she won't ask. She would come and say, Lamma Jogati. Then grandfather used to tell me, you get into the storage. It is the round kanaja and a short girl. So you bring one small bucket of rice and grandfather will give. Then on Monday, that Jangama used to come. And on Friday, Peer used to come. So many people will come. They won't ask anything. They'll just stand and they say, Govinda, Yellamma, Assalamu alaikum, depending on what they believe. And the person, grandfather said, okay, give each one map or one measure. The person who receives never felt low or small. The person who gave never felt big and large and with, oh, I have given. There's nothing like that. There's an equilibrium in the society, or particularly in our house, where giving was so natural, without expectation, without talking, oh, I have given you so much, etc. No talking about giving. The person who receives will say, okay, salam bhai, or Devar Ashirwada irli, or some good words. And this beautiful relationship I always enjoyed. The person who takes and the person who gives, there is absolutely no calm. It's an equilibrium. The person who receives also will not ask too much. The person also will not give less. In the night, we'll eat red rice, and I was maybe 10, 12 years old. I asked my grandmother, you give first quality of rice to those people who come and stand. Whereas you give second quality of rice, you cook and give it to us. She told me, Beta, I have not gone to school. But if God comes, she was a God-fearing person actually. If God comes to your house, what do you give, good or bad? I said, of course I will give good. You know why? I should get good marks in the exam. She said, that's a different story. You study, you get marks. If not giving alms, you get good marks. But the person comes, the person who comes to our house has a reflection, or a part of him is a God. And we should always give the best. My grandfather was a Sanskrit scholar. He told, yes, Upanishad says, Danam priyavak sahitam, shraddhai danam, ashraddhai nadanam. He said, when you want to give away, give with a sweet tongue. Don't say take and get lost. Don't give, and when you give, don't get attached to that and give. Something will happen best of because I'm giving. When you give, you should have belief in giving, because giving gives you a joy. And you should thank the receiver that he gave you opportunity to give you, and you should be happy about it. So this was the fundamental thing which I learned, from my grandmother, that giving is so important in life, and the best quality you should give, not the worst quality.
This is really so so radical in the concept and philosophy of giving, especially now when a lot of charities, they all complain that when they receive items to be given to people who may have faced floods or tsunami or any other distress situation, they say a lot of people think of giving as a way to get rid of what they have that they don't need, which is why there is such indignity in the process of giving. I think you have, in the process of in sharing with us your story of what your grandparents gave you as insight, have probably left a very important thought for those who wish to give more. In a way, it's also shaped your philanthropy, I would say. What you and Mr. Narayan Murthy and Infosys Foundation and other philanthropists of India have given, which reminds me, Sudhaji, of one incident which I again have only read. You have to confirm this firsthand. Today I get a chance that when Mr. J.R.D. Tata apparently met you sometime, I know it might be an incident that's often recounted, but one line which stuck with me was that him telling you that you are never supposed to own money or behave that you own money, that you are only a custodian, that you're a trustee, because money changes hands. So is this coupled with what your grandmother had told you, grandparents told you? Is that also a guiding mantra for you?
Probably yes, because I was brought up that way, where storing at home was minimum. When I met JRD, when I was leaving Tata's, he asked me, he used to call me by maiden name, Kulkarni. He said, Kulkarni, why are you leaving? I said, my husband is starting, my husband is starting an adventure called Infosys. I do not know whether it will be successful or not. So I have to help him out, so I'm leaving. He said, Kulkarni, what happens when you get a lot of money? I said, sir, I don't know whether we'll make a lot of money of this company or not. He said, Kulkarni, never start an adventure with diffidence. Start with confidence. When you get a lot of money, what you will do? I said, I don't know, sir. He said, please remember, society gives you so much love, affection, everything. You don't own that money. You are only trustee of that money. The money belongs, the whole money is not yours. Minimum is yours to whatever you want. The rest should go back to the society. And that, I think, was the mantra for me. And that's the reason his photograph is there in my office. Because I always believe what you earn out of that, you really don't require so much money. You require only part of it for your daily stay, your own house, your travel, your medicine, etc. More than that, it has to go back to our society.
You see, I'm now going to gently lead ourselves from this world of, let's say, money and giving again to something which is very connected, because these are values that you share through your stories. Some of your books or stories that are very, very popular have been Dollar Bahu, The Day I Stopped Drinking Milk, The Mother I Never Knew, Gently Falls a Bakula. So now when you are, like a certified grandmother, because grandmothers are supposed to be, walking houses of stories with your own grandchildren. How is this, as a writer and as a grandmother? Is there any difference in you being the storyteller there?
Well, I will tell you, I know lots of stories. Reason is I used to read a lot, like Katha Sarit Sagara, and I felt it. Some of them have to be modified depending on the time, but those stories I must pen down for the next generation. Gone were the days where grandmother will sit in the night under the moonlight and feed you people. Okay, kai tuttu is to call, eat your dinner, and she will tell a story. Those days are not possible today with the present scenario. So I felt, at least let me pen down which I have enjoyed. And I made two sections. One is mythology, which I know more than 6,000, 2,000 stories, but unusual stories, not usual stories. So I wrote 5 books in mythology: Serpent's Revenge, Man from the Egg, The Daughter from a Wishing Tree, then Upside Down King. This is for children from Indian mythology, because next generation, they will not know if we don't tell that. Okay. Many times mothers will not know. Actually, you have to tell mothers also these stories.
That's true.
Okay. Second thing is different stories for children to enjoy and to learn, to share, to be compassionate, to be hardworking, and to be straight in life, to be honest. All these are very important. So I wrote grandmother's bags of stories, grandparents' bags of stories, the bird with the golden wing, magic drum stories, and what is this? Fifth one is going to come now, I think. Grandfather's bags of stories. Then I wrote 2 books on Gopi stories. Gopi is my dog. The dog, how it looks, he looks at me. Because for me, he's a dog. For Gopi, I'm his Ajji, grandmother.
Right.
So I wrote these books, and when I write these stories, I will have in pandemic. I used to have a Zoom session with my granddaughter and tell the stories. Both granddaughters, I will tell the stories and take their feedback. You know, that is important to me because children are very impartial. They say it's not good, it is good. Okay, and then improve my stories. So I always like young audience to tell the stories. Sometimes I give it to 12 years old children, read the draft and come back to me and tell where which is not good.
Yeah.
I enjoy that.
You see, when you rightly say the children are so impartial, they can be brutally honest and frank, and I think nothing better than that for a writer. I want to ask you one question, which is a lot of emotional issue these days, which is that the grandchildren don't talk in the Indian language, like whether it's Kannada, Tamil, Hindi, Bengali, Telugu, whatever. And grandparents are sometimes forced to converse only in English, particularly if those children are growing up abroad. Maybe they have difficulties in retaining the mother tongue. And I have seen in my own family circles also grandparents struggling to communicate in English with their grandkids. How do you think this gap? Are you able to tell them in your case, in your grandchildren, in your own native tongue? And my second question is, since you are bilingual and that's such a talent to be able to write in Kannada as well as English, what comes more naturally to you as a writer?
Well, unfortunately, my grandchildren do not know Kannada. There is a various reason for that. But still, I feel really sad because I love Kannada so much, so much. In the middle of the night, you ask, I can tell you the Hale Kannada poem. At my back, actually, I have my own Kannada library with 5,000 books. I have stored beautiful books from my grandfather, which I inherited. But I really feel sad. My love for Kannada will end with me because my grandchildren cannot speak. The reason, but I don't have a say in their language because the reason is my son-in-law is a Punjabi, born and brought up 3rd generation in England. Okay, so the easy language for them at home, they have accepted, they have decided to have English. Though I always tell them, I talk to them in English, but I tell a lot about Karnataka, our history of 2000 years old. I talk about Chalukya's history, but the language is Kannada. English. I really miss telling the stories in Kannada. That is a fact, and I'm very honest about it. I would have loved to tell the stories more in Kannada, actually. Yeah, because it connects from heart to heart. But I have to tell in English. The other one is, you cannot help these things, situations. See, my editor Shruti Khurana told me once, auntie, you do not know how lucky you are. I said, in what way? She said, you are in Karnataka, you are married to a Kannadiga, you have a family history of 500 years in Karnataka, and you are surrounded by Kannada people. She said, look at my life. My grandparents were Punjabis from Rawalpindi and Multan. They immigrated to Delhi. So we lost mother tongue Punjabi and we learned Hindi more. My parents were born and brought up in Chandigarh and Delhi. Then they moved to Bangalore. So we lost Hindi. Now, what is my mother tongue? Neither Multani Punjabi, not in Pindi Punjabi, Delhi Hindi, or Chandigarh Hindi. It has become now English. And all my cousins are different parts of the world. And we can't go and see our original place in Pakistan. That time I feel how much we are lucky to talk our mother tongue in our own state, in the same atmosphere. So it is not like in today's world, it is everybody will not have this luxury.
Yeah.
My own daughter does not have that luxury. So these are the things you have to accept, because now we are global citizen, more movement, world is flat. All these books you have read, no?
Yes.
So these are the new constraints or new rules, and which you have to accept it. The best thing in life is accept the change, and you have to accept it. Now, writing in Kannada and English, I have a very peculiar way of writing. When I write novels which are more emotional, I write in the shorthand in Kannada. I learned shorthand.
I see.
Okay, and on pen and paper, because I have to, my thinking process is so fast, my hands don't match, so I write in shorthand. And when I write children's stories, when I write my experiences of Infosys Foundation or columns, I write on computer in English.
Oh, I see.
Okay, they are faster, easy to erase, edit better, but I can't write in pen and paper English. And I cannot write Kannada Brahma, Baraha, Akshara, anything on computer. So I kept two compartments separate. So entire novels, I cannot write first in English. I have to write in Kannada. Novels, I have to write in Kannada, and it takes 2 to 3 years for me, because I develop a story emotionally. I come to the brink of that, what the hero feels, heroine feels, etc. That I have to write in Kannada. The rest, I write in English. The rest, apart from novel, the rest are all in English. And after writing my Kannada novel, I take a couple of years gap, and I will do my own work in English on computer, because the book is ready in Kannada.
Yeah. So, but then from the writing stage of you in Kannada Lipi,
Yes.
as you said on page,
Shorthand.
shorthand to then writing it in Kannada script, and then somebody, of course, has to kind of type it out on
yeah. I give it to my publisher.
How good is your handwriting?
My handwriting is very good.
Oh, I see.
It's very
I
good.
wish there was a way we could see it someday. I would love to see.
My handwriting is very good. One is, I'm a Kannada medium student, so I learned physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, everything in Kannada. Jiva Shastra, Rasayana Shastra, Bhauta Shastra. At the age of 16, when I went to college, I learned English. I was not able to write one paragraph of English, writing when I was 16 years old.
Imagine from that stage to now actually being a absolutely qualified writer in English. It's terrific. As Sudha ma'am, there are questions coming for us, and though I would have to ask you a little bit more about the process of writing, our viewers are sending this. So I'm going to give you 3 questions at one go, and then you choose what you want to answer. Of course,
I'm quite honest, so anything is fine for me.
All right. So this person says, with censorship becoming stricter, how do you think storytellers will send out the message that they want to?
There are many ways. Storytellers needs you have a lot of creation and imagination. You can pass on any message in many ways. So I always believe you can always tell your message in so many ways. So many ways. I believe in it.
Yeah. So I think the writer should find her or his medium.
Yeah, it is possible. It is. I have done that in many ways. At least I know about myself.
How the other question says, do you think it hampers one's creativity if we care about people's opinions of our writing?
I think so, because I really do not worry about what people think. I wrote Gently Falls Bakula. It was translated Borsali Pansar, I think, in Gujarati. And my translator said, ma'am, ending was not really happy. Shall I make it, readers like happy ending? I want to change. I said, no. The ending, I do not worry about what people think. What writing is my expression of my emotion. So when I wrote this one, I know I felt the ending should be like this, and that is the way I have written. I will not worry about readers feel happy ending, sad ending. No. So creativity should not worry about the end results, because you have created. Okay, you should write it the way you feel right.
In a way, it's also, I feel, a bit philosophical to be detached, because people do tend to get very attached to, or at least concerned about, okay, if we write this way, then there is a certain popularity.
I really don't worry. I'll give an example. House of Cards, I wrote first in Kannada, Paridhi. and it was a mental hospital case study. Based on that, I expanded that. It took almost 12 to maybe 15 years for me to write that. Can you imagine? Because first I wrote 4 or 5 pages. Then I said, no, it's not coming. I'm not able to write because I felt it. The story is not going. What is holding me? Then I said, okay, let me not write. Just left it. Then one day I realized I am not open. I'm not open to my book. I'm not what my heart conceived. That has to be opened. It should not have, it should not have gates to close it. Let floodgate open. Let it come the way it comes. I don't care about what people can talk or do anything. Then I could finish it in 45 days. Otherwise, I was not able to write that because my creativity stops if my heart thinks, my heart wants something, my hand wants something, they don't cooperate.
Yeah, how many hours do you write per day?
Actually, it's writing. I have a different methodology. I don't write like 20 lines a day. Not like that. Not diary. When my emotions are full, I just cannot hold them. Then I sit. Early morning I start writing because afternoon I'll get calls because still I'm working.
Right.
And about 2-3 hours I get exhausted. If I'm writing by short and this one, then I will leave it. Okay. Then I'll finish my office and come back and I write. In writing process, I normally don't like to talk to people. I want to be alone. Many times I don't like to eat also, but I have to. It depends on what is the theme of the book. For example, House of Cards, I took 45 days, continuous writing, maybe 5 or 6 hours a day. After 45 days, I fell ill because I exhausted so much with my ideas. I was not able to get up. Like children's stories and all, I will take maybe about a week or 10 days.
Yeah. So clearly, this is such an intense
Yes.
process that the writing is. I can see that there were a couple of questions, but at the same time, I think our session has run out of time. There's just 1 minute left, and that is always the difficult part when you're almost settling into a nice, beautiful story. And I feel like listening more. I'm sure it's
don't worry.
But
Thank you.
One last, as we wrap up and we thank you, is there a writer that you have been reading lately during the lockdown or something who has left a deep impact on you?
Well, actually, I'm reading Murty Classical Library, where we have original translation. So I am reading Abul Fadl's Aini Akbari, Akbarnama. Akbarnama, the life of Akbar I'm reading now.
Very good. I think that's a very unusual kind of book to be coming as a recommendation, I would say. And I will leave it at that. Here is to more stories from you, as a storyteller, and to you spreading the joy in a difficult world. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you very much. I enjoy writing, so it's a joy to me. Thank you, Vasanthi. And let's meet sometime later.
Sure.
When we get a chance. And have a safe journey to Bengal.
Thank you. I look forward to that. And with that, we come to a wrap of this beautiful session. And I thank the Art Festival as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.